So thanks again for all joining. I'm going to start recording now. We'll be posting this webinar and the slides up to Wigio if space permits. I'll send out, or Jessica will figure that out, how the webinar recording and the slides after this. And just as one last piece of introduction, I'm somewhat happy to be presenting this webinar today, not partially because I served as a recruiter in a previous position. I recruited for an international volunteer program that I'm alumni of. So recruitment is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited that we're going to be engaging in a conversation about it. So to start out, I've asked you all to bring your participation to this webinar, and I want to start off by giving those folks who haven't had an opportunity to complete this really brief participation survey to do that. To participate, you're going to have to click one of the links. There's a link on this webinar. Hopefully you can click that. I also provided it in advance in an email. It'll take you to a Google form survey. It's something that's you should be familiar with because we've been using them for surveys for a while now. And if you're in the right spot, you'll actually see the image that is on this PowerPoint screen right now. You'll see that coffee mug with some pens and paper. That's how you know you'll be in the right spot. So the survey is anonymous, and I will display these anonymous results in the next few minutes. So you aren't required to answer any of these questions, but you should feel comfortable answering them, just knowing that none of the information will be collected or tied to you in any way. We're just trying to get a sense of, what all of your thoughts are and get some participation right at the get-go. So give you all just a few minutes to fill the survey out. For those of you who are joining us just a little bit late, we're just going to go and start off with this survey. And I won't show you the results as they come in, but I'd rather like to spend just a few quick minutes here filling those out, and then I will start to tease out some of those preliminary results. I'll go ahead and try to copy the link into the chat box as well for those folks who haven't gotten it. Again, for all of you who are just joining, we're filling out the survey, the Google Forms survey real quickly. I have 10 responses already, so and it's a pretty good amount. I'll just give another minute or two for you to fill that out and participate. So I just got 3 more responses in. You should all be seeing this screen for the preliminary results. I have 13 responses. That's most of you here today. And when I was first looking at these results, it was a pretty clear division between a couple categories of how you all thought most applicants heard about AmeriCorps. As that has gone on, it's been a very even distribution between all of the categories. And interestingly enough, we go on to what you all think the best means to recruit people are for AmeriCorps. And these are quite different in terms of what you thought were the best or how most applicants here and what are the best means to recruit. Alumni was the overwhelming answer. That might be due to maybe some of you looking at the slides that I sent out last night. Maybe that influenced your decisions there. And the friend, family, colleague also is being the number one. So these don't necessarily match up one-to-one. And then a pretty good distribution here in terms of pretty even in terms of how many months you are preparing to recruit for a position. So most of you are doing that 5 to 6 months in advance of the position beginning, or 3 to 4. And lastly, the questions about how much staff time you're spending on recruitment, just estimations here, ranging anywhere from 48 days, I would imagine that's 48-hour days, all the way 100 plus hours. You guys are spending some of you are spending a lot of time, even a half of a staff person's time. That's quite a significant investment for some of you. I put these out there just to show you what some of your peers, how much they're investing it in, and to see if you are on par with that. And then likewise, how much money, dollar-wise, not a figure including the staff time that's being spent on recruitment, but this is very wide-ranging. You can see, around 2,000, there's a $28,000 figure on recruitment. That's very large, all the way down to $50 or $0 for that matter. So regardless of where you guys fell in this survey, I think, hopefully this webinar provides some tools for you. We are all about creating a conversation about recruitment. It's something that we are very much interested in from Serve Wisconsin, And so I'm going to work hard not to be the expert in recruitment, because I don't think that's accurate of my position, but to just continue this conversation. And, oh, sorry about that. So just a few notes on what we saw. I think what is interesting in the data for me, that when what I was trying to get at with the comparison between how AmeriCorps members first hear about AmeriCorps and what is the best way to recruit, I believe this comparison gets at the idea that branding is an effective recruitment tool. And although recruitment, is more than just name recognition, branding is that effective means to recruit. And I think this is evidenced by the fact that, and as we'll see shortly in the data that I'll present, that the majority of people are hearing about AmeriCorps through word of mouth. We can safely assume that not too many of these members went straight to the website and submitted their application. So effective branding and messaging is the way that people are going to recognize your program or recognize AmeriCorps. And I would say this even extends all the way to if you are trying to focus your recruitment efforts locally. Effectively branding yourself as an AmeriCorps program only increases the probability in which individual will recognize you and lead to a conversation about AmeriCorps. And the last point I'd like to make about that data is that few people are going to try to commit a year of service just by hearing and seeing AmeriCorps once or twice. And that's why we probably saw such a diversity in responses of what the best way is, because I think, honestly, the best way to do recruitment is to diversify your efforts. So that you're not just catching one or two groups of people, but to catch those same people multiple times. So before we get too far into this, I'd like to share with you some of the objectives that we have for today. We all just heard from you, and I really appreciate your participation in that. And then I'm going to share some data coming from the member surveys. I'm going to do that in a couple different places. And then I'm going to turn it over to Brian Belanek from Marshfield Clinic and Alexis Matthews from Easter Seals. They're going to chat with you about a few topics, specifically how they do recruitment, and some of the other topics that I asked them to present on, like the consultation of leaders of the disability community and host site recruitment. And then from our perspective, from Serve Wisconsin's perspective, we wanted to provide some strategies based on what we've seen from other commissions, from what we've gathered from the Intercorps Council, and just general experience that we have on staff. And then some considerations that you all should be taking when you're recruiting, whether that be, how to recruit for a diverse group of folks, to what language you should be using and what keywords are important for AmeriCorps members. And lastly, always trying to provide you all with a lot of resources so that when we move away from this webinar, you have something to reference, and you're hearing from more voices than just us. Now moving on to the data portion. Before I show you the data itself, I wanted to put some framework around it first. And this data comes from the 2015-2016 member survey, so the ones that members are currently filling out. It's not fully complete. And Jessica pulled these preliminary responses to the survey on April 7th. There was 252 members who had responded to the question, how did you learn about AmeriCorps, about your AmeriCorps position and or your program? She categorized the responses based on where they fit best. 22 of those 252 responses were excluded for not having answers that quite fit the question. So below here on the slide, you'll see the categories that will be presented in a pie graph on the next slide. And when I was first looking at this, I just want to mention this because when I first looked at the pie graph, I was looking at it with the lens of recruitment and thinking that the question was actually how members had first heard of AmeriCorps and or their position, because that's what we tend to think of as a big recruitment piece, you know, how members are first hearing about all of this. And I think in some ways this question takes this a step further and really asks the members how they learned about AmeriCorps the question is trying to get at how they were recruited. So here's the pie chart divided into the 8 categories that you saw on the last slide. The question, which is reiterated at the top of the chart, is how members learned about AmeriCorps and their position. As you can see, the responses are relatively evenly distributed between the categories, with alumni, no surprise based on your responses from the survey, being the single largest category from which members learn about their position, followed by online, interestingly. MyAmeriCorps.gov and the organization's website were the smallest or received the fewest responses. And by organization website, again, we mean the one specific to your organization, so something like marshfieldclinic.org or eastersealswisconsin.com, not necessarily like a recruitment website like Indeed or Service Year Exchange. So now if you combine alumni, family, friend, and direct recruitment, all categories that require you to be talking to people face-to-face, it's half of how members learn about the opportunity, 49%. And if you add previously connect, which includes face-to-face talking, that's a total of 63%. So a pretty large amount, nothing to shake at. Definitely the largest portion of this pie. And actually, based on my experience as a recruiter and now having this data to reinforce that position, I feel like people are more likely to participate in something after seeing someone they respect invite and encourage them to participate in an opportunity. Although I don't have the actual statistics here, I can imagine a lot of your members are coming to you looking for a transformative experience. Seeing an alumni speak about this provides them with an example of what this experience could produce, a concrete one in that fashion. And maybe you all have seen something similar to this in the field. We'll go more in depth a bit later about recruitment strategies. You can use now knowing which ones tend to be the most effective for members as a whole. The last section of this pie that I'd like to draw attention to is one that we were quite surprised to see, was that only 10% members found or learned of AmeriCorps from university job boards or campus offices. 10% is surprisingly low, and I imagine some portion of the direct recruitment category could actually be associated with the school and university one, but even at 22%, the high end, is still lower than I would have considered it. Universities are, I feel like, tempting recruitment territory for most programs because they contain fairly large groups of people who will soon be looking for their next step. However, this data suggests that recruiting there is just not overly fruitful. It begs the question as to whether this means that recruiting at college is not effective or we just haven't done enough of it yet. And although that's a question I don't necessarily have the answer to yet, and I'm just putting it out there for you all to consider. I hope you all agree that this data is valuable and interesting, and I say that because I hope when you receive the final results from Jessica that you take some time to really sit down and view it with the lens of recruitment, so that you might make more informed decisions about where you'd like to take recruitment moving forward. Recruitment is certainly a big task, no one's saying it isn't, and where you will be successful will change over time. So I think these member survey results provide you with an opportunity to see how that is changing 1 year at a time. Now, with that as a framework, I want to turn it over to your colleagues, 2 of your colleagues, in fact, 3 maybe. When I was thinking about how to approach this broad topic of recruitment in a webinar and still providing you meaningful content, I felt it necessary to give you examples of AmeriCorps programs who had some bold recruitment approaches. So I've asked these programs to address those topics. So Brian, I will, if you are ready, I will try to turn this over to you. And just a moment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Brian, and I have the presentation mode now given to you.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Casey. So Casey and I were talking, and I think part of the reason that we wanted to share a little bit about our recruitment was that we had gone from 2 years ago where we had 38 unfilled full-time positions to last year where we had over 100% enrollment in all of our 75 full-time slots. And the previous year where we went with those 38 unfilled positions, we had over 100 full-time positions we had to fill, and it was the first time in 15 years we'd experienced any issues around recruitment. And so, you know, our program is a statewide program. We put the burden of the final selection of the member and the recruitment of the member on our individual host sites, because we, in the very first year of our program, we thought, well, we'll go ahead and recruit all the members and place them with the sites. And our retention rate was extremely low because we would select members that were not a good fit for the sites. And so that burden has shifted to the sites to allow them to pick the person who's right for them. Of course, we provide, you know, guidelines for the selection of those members, as well as standards and consistent things that we put out for each of the sites when they're looking at their applicants and selecting their applicants. So that's helpful. And we created this marketing and recruitment plan to kind of help guide them a little bit as to how we can assist them and how they can help themselves in the recruitment. And if you're a single site program and you're doing all the recruitment, you could apply these same concepts to your organization as well. I think one of the biggest challenges is that I think a lot of people come to AmeriCorps, but they know that they're not going to get rich serving in AmeriCorps. And so that's not necessarily a big pull for them. A lot of them are looking at other things. Keep in mind, though, if you sit down and figure out the numbers for the living allowance, the child care, the education award, the training, the service gear, you know, you're talking about a position that has a significant value in dollars. And I would estimate that that's somewhere in the $25,000 or more range. But what we're finding is more and more important, especially with the newer generation, is that they want impact. They don't necessarily care about the dollars. They want those intangible things that we don't typically talk about when we're recruiting. Like Casey said before, they want to have a life-changing experience, or they want to do something that impacts the world. And so what we tried to do with our marketing and recruitment plan is to give some guidance to the individual sites, and then also help them to, you know, put together a strategy of things that might be tantalizing to the individual applicants themselves. And so what you see here is our marketing and recruitment document. And this one is specific to our Volunteer Wisconsin AmeriCorps program. And it talks a little bit about, starting off with the importance of the thoughtful selection of your AmeriCorps member as a key to a successful term of service. Because if you get the right person, and the person who wants to serve in that role and has the skills, then they'll be successful and want to stay. And if possible, for more than 1 year. So and I'm going to cruise through a couple of these things here, and I really want to hit on the intangibles, but we've identified how we're going to assist them, and I'm sure all of you are doing a lot of these things as well, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. But we use paid sites, we use the Tech Connect websites for the technical colleges, we use the UW career websites and whatnot, and we make ourselves available on all those different services, and that really helps to get the word out. Social media as well too. We talk about some things the host sites can do to make sure that it's that they're prepared to recruit their individual members as well. But here's what I wanted to really hit on are these member intangible monetary benefit, but look at some of these other benefits that they're going to have. For example, resume building. You know, how many of them have come to you and said, I can't get a job, nobody will hire me because I don't have any experience? Well, they don't have any experience because they can't get a job. So how do you build your resume? We're going to help you do that by serving in AmeriCorps. You know, for a lot of individuals to be able to say that they served with Easter Seals of Wisconsin or with WIPCA, that's a resume builder for them, and it helps them. So we want to promote that aspect of it. We also want to promote some of the hands-on practical experiences that they're going to get that are going to be beneficial to them. And along with that, the networking opportunity. We're seeing so many of our members exit the program at the end of the term of service to take positions full-time with their host sites or partner agencies because they've built such a strong network. And if you let your applicants know that now, that they're going to have that opportunity to build that network and get that foot in the door, for a lot of them, that's what they need right now. And the money is great, but this is what they need more than the money. We also talked about the training opportunities. I think all of your programs provide some pretty professional level training, and there's a value to that. And it's going to help them to build not only their resume but their skill set. And of course those experiences that come along with the term of service as well. Conflict resolution training, opportunities to grow. Again, if we put these things in front of them when they're applying in addition to the Ed Award and the living allowance, it makes it a much more attractive opportunity for them. And it kind of reiterates that, you know, that desire on their part to make some significant changes down the road. And then the last two here, we talk about building value, that your service as a member, that if you come on board, that you're building value, and it's an opportunity to help you to make that transition from service into a full-time role. And then commitment. I mean, any member that serves with AmeriCorps clearly knows how to make a commitment, and it shows they can make a commitment, and employers look for that. And that's, I think, why we see universities offering to double and even triple the education awards, because they want individuals that have a commitment and know, you know, what it means to commit. So those are some of those really intangible things that I think we really need to look at when we're looking at the dollars and cents as well as these things. And our marketing recruitment plan also talks about some, you know, some selection recommendations, and then also helping them to understand as an individual, if they serve in this program, what commitments they're making too. The more information we provide to an applicant up front, the better informed they are to make a good decision. And again, you know, everybody's looking for a benefits package. What am I going to get from this term of service? They know they're going to get money. They're going to get money from any place that they go and serve, whether it's more or less, but it's those other benefits that are really something that are a carrot to them to take on this term of service and stay committed to it throughout that course of the service year. So I think that's the time you gave me, Casey, so I'll cut it off there unless there's any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. We can also, you know, alternatively, if it takes a while for you to type in your question in the chat box, if you hang around, Brian, we can do the questions at the end too, as they come in, or as they come into the chat box. So thank you for that, Brian. That's very valuable, and touched on some pieces that I'll go a little more in depth on as well. So now I'm going to transfer it over to you, Callie, if you're ready for that. And I will also unmute your microphone. Great.
All right, let me know how it looks to you guys, because I have two monitors, so I'm not sure exactly how it's going to look.
We're seeing your outline at the moment.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Okay, so hi everyone. Here's Alexis and Callie with Easter Seals. So a little bit different than what Brian had mentioned and spoke about. We're going to actually talk more so about the tools and what we do as far as our recruitment to get the word out. So just to kind of give you an idea, so we have a total of 53 members a year. We've got 29 positions for the summer that are 900-hour positions, and so far, as of today, we have 25 of them filled, and that's really just since the end of February that they've started filling. So really kind of contradictory to what the survey results were. We do a huge majority of all of our recruitment at colleges and universities, but from like the results that Casey had provided with the details on the categories, it's not just school and university. We also kind of wrap that, the direct recruitment, and then the online or other. Those are all three kind of wrapped together for us in regards to recruitment at colleges and universities. So can you pull up the colleges and universities spreadsheet? So this is our all-around inclusive spreadsheet for all of the colleges and universities that we post at across the country. We get a lot of applicants from all over the country, a lot from California, New York, Georgia, and a lot of the East Coast states too. I think it's important to not just post extremely locally. When I served AmeriCorps, I was living in Wisconsin, and I ended up serving in Florida. And many people that I was serving with were from other parts of the country too, and that was a full year term. So I think it's important to not just focus locally. It is a huge commitment creating all of these logins, so I'm not going to say that it's easy and not time consuming, because it definitely is, but you just kind of set a day aside and just really set these up. Once you do one, it's very easy then to do the rest of them. They all kind of use the same system, so it's pretty simple once you do it. Also, we attend a great deal of community service fairs, internship fairs, job fairs, volunteer fairs. So Callie's going to pull up that spreadsheet. These are just the ones that we attended in January and February of this year. We do attend some other ones throughout the year as well. I know many of you mentioned that you don't have a huge time ability to be able to go out and attend these fairs, but if there are any that are nearby you, I really do recommend that you go to them. Some of them you'll see are just for summer camp, but those colleges also have them for other things as far as internships or jobs. And some of the more effective ones have actually been like Northern Illinois has one that is for more of like a business professional recruitment fair where everyone there is in suits and ties and they do interviews on site. But having that AmeriCorps kind of more laid back, hey, this is a term of service, we're really appreciative of everything you do, those have actually been some of our more beneficial ones. So some of them do cost money, some cost quite a bit, but I'd say on average they're about $25 to $100 each. Can you pull up the picture? Mm-hmm. So at the fairs, we do have a banner that really talks about, I think what we found to be more beneficial is to first show and display camp. And then once we talk about camp as far as what respite camp, Camp Wabeek, what Easter Seals does, and once the person is pretty engaged then as far as what camp does and they're really into that, then we start talking about AmeriCorps too, and it's like, hey, not only is camp great, but also listen to what we can tell you now about AmeriCorps and all these extra benefits that you could have. And that's really, I think, not just, it allows us to tell more people about AmeriCorps after they're already interested, and so it helps us in recruitment, but also in in informing many more people about AmeriCorps and in having a strong retention rate. So far we have a 100% retention rate this year, and I think it has a lot to do with really getting people on board with the mission about camp first, and then really getting them excited about AmeriCorps too. So other things that we take to these fairs are going to be pens, handouts, just all that stuff. So something that we have started doing too, Jenna, the previous program manager, and I really sat down and pretended like we were a college student. So we went and pretended like we were going to apply and start classes, and we found course numbers, and then we contacted those teachers for the classes. So for us, we use therapeutic recreation, special education, nursing, programs, majors like that, and then we'd actually specifically contact those professors and say, hey, you know, your classroom of students could find our program really beneficial. You know, do you mind if we come out and talk for 10 or 15 minutes to your class? And I know for a fact that of the 25 for this summer, 4 or 5 of them came from that, and then for the 10 that we have currently serving, 4 of them came from that. So that's a huge, you're talking to a small group of people, and it's really beneficial. Otherwise, I think reaching out just in general to as many people as you can at those schools, department heads, professors, teachers, campus groups, classroom visits like I mentioned, mailings, flyers at campuses, just putting them up anywhere that you can, RAs, alumni groups, etc. That just really reaching out as much as you can, and asking your current members too about kind of where they recruit on their campus, and what they find to be more beneficial. Maybe they'll tell you, you know, like, no one looks at our job board, but you know, we have this, like, that's how we found out about a therapeutic recreation support group on Facebook, and we found quite a few people from there. So yeah, otherwise starting early, I guess it looked like most of you already did start early, so that's great. We do start recruiting at least 5 months in advance for summer, probably closer to 4 for the spring and the fall, but definitely starting early, it doesn't hurt. And then Casey had mentioned 2 parts about Serve Wisconsin that people have requested help from them, that they don't really have much, or they're not fully equipped to help out. And I just kind of wanted to throw it out there that if you all are have members that I guess you'd mentioned that you need leaders in the disability community. So if you have members that need any adaptations or need any assistance as far as that, feel free to reach out to me or Callie, and we can definitely try and help you out. Talk with our coworkers and you know, at least provide resources to you wherever we can. As far as host sites, we only have 2, and there are 2 camps, and they're on the same 400 acres, so we don't have much of that. I will tell you that I interview the members, and then once I do that, I get kind of approval from both camp directors as well as Callie. So then everyone sees the member and sees their information, and then if they have any concerns or anything, then we address them as a group. But yeah, that's about it for me. Callie, did you have anything you want to add?
Well, as far as the interview process too, because retention is so important as well, not only does Alexis interview them, and then she sends the interview notes to the camp directors and to myself for a final approval, but she also sends out an email to them before even interviewing them with a set of questions to ask them to fill out those questions to get a sense of if they're going to be someone worth interviewing to begin with, and to give them a sense of what camp is, so that they're prepared for the interview of what camp is, what we would expect out of them in the term of service. So we changed to that system when Jenna and I started several years ago, and we seem to be having a much easier time retaining members because they have a full expectation of what they're coming into with camp, and we're able to really make sure we select members that are going to stay for the full term and who have a full understanding of what they're getting into.
Yeah. So that's about it. I mean, if anyone has any questions as far as what we do for recruiting at colleges and universities, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to tell you more about what fairs we've found really beneficial or what ones we've found maybe not so beneficial. But just they're absolutely worth attending. We've had people that, you know, maybe we only spoke to 1 or 2 people at them, but every fair that we've gone to so far, I'm fairly confident that we have either brought on someone as an AmeriCorps member or as a potential AmeriCorps member for that. So, yeah, I definitely advocate for those and for just reaching out of your comfort zone and going and speaking at classes and trying to recruit as much as you can that way. So that's it.
Great. Thanks, Callie and Alexis. I agree. I don't think, based on the survey results, that we were trying to convey that there was, you know, specifically one best way to do recruitment. And I think that those survey results do a great job of showing you, you know, specifically where you have been successful traditionally and where, if that's changing, where that's going. And also getting out there at the fairs, providing some face-to-face time is definitely recommended. Thanks for also sharing your Excel documents. Just a note for all of you, once we go through the resources, I've posted almost everything that we will go through today in the program resources recruitment folder in Wigio, and I'll show you where that is in Wigio at the end of the webinar today. So thanks again, Callie and Alexis. Alrighty. So we have 15 minutes left, and with the rest of our time, I'd like to blow through some strategies that we have from our perspective. Callie and Brian and Alexis touched on a few of them, so I won't go as in depth with some of those we've already talked about. But just to give you a sense of what across the nation we've heard from commissions, America's Service Commissions conducted a survey of commissions around recruitment. They received 23 responses, so 23 commissions, and 75% of those commissions identified word of mouth as one of the 3 most successful strategies for their subgrantees around recruitment. So what we saw around the member survey, what we've heard from today, I don't think I really need to keep driving the point home that word of mouth is a very effective means of recruitment. So the question becomes, how do we do that word of mouth recruiting on a budget? And this is where I don't think either of our programs talk too much about, but is about how we leverage our alumni to have this win-win situation between alumni and recruitment for programs. Of course, members, we hope, want to talk about their service and your program and do so in a positive manner. And I think channeling this energy that members have at the completion of their service is a great way for you to keep your alumni engaged and double down on the most effective recruitment strategy, word of mouth. Ideally, alumni would be compensated for their time in some fashion. I know that's not always feasible, but there are other ways to organize. I have listed here an alumni leadership team, for example. That, if you want to call it something different, the organization or group of people isn't always the most important, just that you have an organized set of alumni folks. I suggest that it be of members from different program years and that they come together and start working on ways to spread the word about your program. The team can, take on a whole wide variety of tasks other than just recruitment, but I think it's well within their wheelhouse to be advocating on your behalf. They they know the program well and know what service is about. And so it sounds like Alexis, you all were doing some calling with with potential applicants prior to fully interviewing them, and I think that's a great practice. I've heard of programs actually soliciting alumni to do some informal calls with applicants very early on in the application process, like maybe before a full interview with a program director or something like that. I think then that provides an opportunity for you to see how invested this person is in the application process. And I think on the flip side, you'll find that applicants are really grateful for the opportunity to learn about the program from a former member's perspective. It allows them to ask some of those questions that they may be afraid to ask a program director or something like that. And I've actually seen this done where the alumni literally do it all, from preparing the questions, setting up the calls with the potential applicant, and then even writing notes about that call and sharing those notes with the program director. So really great way for alumni to stay engaged and to get a sense of what these new applicants are doing, and keep those new applicants engaged too. So I have a Facebook group on this slide. I think this is more of an indirect recruitment strategy from my perspective, but I see it as a great way for you all to post speaking opportunities, job postings, any other content without having to maintain a list of up-to-date email addresses during and after your members' terms of service. I think this holds especially true for you programs who have members spread all across the state, because it's important for you to use technology to make the state smaller for your members. And I think you'll all be surprised if you're not using this or a similar technology yet right now, that the community will really build upon itself, and this virtual community will foster in a short period of time. So one idea is, if you traditionally conducted monthly check-in calls with your members, to try to transfer that tradition to Facebook at the end of the program year, and to keep members talking amongst themselves and sharing, news of where they are after their term of service. And I think, really then that's like a no investment strategy. Members are keeping themselves engaged by talking amongst themselves. So what I mentioned earlier in some of our objectives is, we at Serve Wisconsin really want to support you in your efforts to engage your alumni and thereby help your recruitment efforts. And how we support statewide recruitment of AmeriCorps members in your program is a conversation that we're still very much in the early phases of. That's why it's really important for us to receive your participation and feedback. What we see the needs at the current time is the need to promote the AmeriCorps brand in your program statewide. We also see a need to build off the AmeriCorps Alums Partnership that you have been working with Amy on, to continue to provide you with tools and materials that you can easily take and adapt to your program. We hope to continue providing you with template emails so you can simply copy and paste to your target audience. That would be ideal. But like you, we are doing all of these efforts on a budget, so those conversations are continuing about how we can explore our options and address those needs while prioritizing them based on your feedback. And lastly, switching gears to a different recruitment strategy away from alumni, I see many programs utilizing to reduce their recruitment burden and strengthen their program is the extending future service opportunities for members who were successful in previous program years. If possible, it's worked really well. I've seen where programs offer them more responsibility or more benefits or something different from the previous year. One commission even recommended to ask that the returning members serve in some leadership capacity, like a peer mentor or team leader. So Callie touched on the a strategy to continue recruiting early. I think all of you are doing that. Just one note on this before moving on. I think it's really great that you all start early. The earlier the better. If you are getting applicants to commit very early, I've heard of some programs running into the issue where people commit and then they commit so early that 4 months down the line, then they drop out. So, however you confront that, keep them engaged, whether it's connecting them with alumni to do those informal calls, as I mentioned, or spreading out those pre-enrollment requirements over a longer period of time. You just really have to keep those members looking ahead so you don't lose them in the process. So beneficiaries of service obviously have a lot of respect for your program and feel that desire to give back. I think it's great if you are able to capitalize on that desire and make sure that they have a place to serve whenever appropriate. One of the things that I'm really excited to show you all in the next few slides that weren't in the first few slides that I provided to you all are common responses from AmeriCorps members as to why they joined AmeriCorps. And one of those common responses is the need to give back. So, Brian was talking about pitching all of those, so we can actually, I'll show you all what are those common things that AmeriCorps members associate the need to serve with. So on local organizations, real briefly, I think they have some big networks. So if you just like churches, local colleges, universities, if you're able to network and put your position out there, and you ask them to send potentials your way, I think that you'd be surprised on who knows who, and they know somebody who's looking for something. Sorry about that. And lastly, just online, in addition to Service Year Exchange and myamericorps.gov, many of you are already using online websites. And I think the only point I'd like to make on this is that what keywords you're using in those positions is even more important than when you are face-to-face, because we've heard so many stories of people Googling, a specific topic like tutoring in Madison, and if you have those in your position, then you're going to be a result. So making sure you have those keywords in is crucial. We're going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to skip this participation piece, but we'll address, the topics that we're going to be covered there. And so what I was looking to show you all is what we are focusing on to sell your AmeriCorps position. So it's really recommended for you to have, sort of an arsenal of selling points, like Brian said, that you can bring out depending on your demographic, or but starting out with your big attention grabbers to start off. So I'm going to jump ahead to the data. So this came from 2014-2015 member survey when we asked why did members join AmeriCorps, and really those answers ran the gamut. But regardless of whatever it was, really, I think it wasn't just one. I struggled to categorize all of these. I started in a similar fashion to what Jessica had done for the 2015-2016 results, to try to categorize all of these, but so many times members had answered, for the experience and to serve my community. And so oftentimes they didn't just fit into one thing. So I think the takeaway I got from it was that, it's not just that these folks are looking to get more experience teaching kids or to put on the resume, but it's a whole slew of things. So I provide these text analysis to show you what are potentially some things that members are looking for when they're online or in person. And then I'll just jump ahead to the less common ones. And here you see, members are interested in advancing themselves professionally once again in things like education awards and working with specific populations. So I think the last point I'll make here before I go to resources and is the EONS one. So as you probably saw from the text analysis, if you got a chance to look at that closely, many members are looking for how is this AmeriCorps opportunity going to open up doors for me in the future. And I think Employers of National Service is a new initiative that you should be using to validate AmeriCorps as an opportunity to advance their careers. Employers of National Service, we call it EONS, and that's the acronym you see there on the screen. It was created to connect Peace Corps and AmeriCorps alumni with their employers. Some EONS even provide preference to AmeriCorps alumni during their application. And I think showing potential applicants a list of Employers of National Service will be very surprising to them. To say that NASA is providing, is giving preference to AmeriCorps alumni is a big thing, or whatever it may be, even Disney. I think it really is an eye-popper for some of these members who are not sure where they're going to find a job in the future. So if you're looking for more information on that, that's orange. EONS is orange because it's a clickable link, so you can go more there. And then lastly, just on the resources, these are all clickable links here. And I promised that I would show you in Wigio that I've posted a lot of these resources on here. So this is in our Serve Wisconsin AmeriCorps page. You just go to Program Resources, and then Recruitment is the topic, obviously. Click on that, and the two documents that Callie had posted, or Callie and Alexis talked about, are on here. I think, and some of the resources that I have posted on the webinar. Oh wait, I need to share the screen with you. My apologies. So just really quickly here, I know we're out of time, but this is the path on Wigio to get to these recruitment resources that I've posted there. So with that, I will open it up to questions. I'll leave it on this screen in case you want to see that path on Wigio. I saw that Jessica was answering a lot of them. And I'll just do a quick read through. Yeah, so simply to answer, Shelley, your question about wanted and joined on the text analysis, really what it was doing is, the question was, why did you join AmeriCorps? And the text analysis was simply the most common words that came up during that analysis. So wanted was probably most common because, a lot of people said they wanted specific experience in something, or they wanted an education award. It's just one of those common words that is used throughout that response. So not all responses in that text analysis are good indicators of what AmeriCorps members are looking for, but I think most of them are. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat box. I'll stay on for just another minute or so if you have any other questions, and I can address them. Otherwise, thank you all for joining me. I know we kind of had to rush through the last few topics. Maybe for some of those, I'll try to share the narrative pieces that I was going to touch on. But thanks very much to Brian, Callie, and Alexis for sharing, and we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. I have the date up here. I'm going to put it on. You should be all seeing that. It is May 11th. So we'll see you then.